Since the dawn of time, warriors have gone into battle blessed by their holy men. In the modern age, military forces have their own holy men, chaplains, who accompanied warriors onto the battlefield, held religious services, and gave last rites. This is the story of one of them. Who was Vincent Capodanno? What made him different from many other religious military men? What was it that made the Catholic Church recommend him for sainthood?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps scout sniper, history professor, historian and book author, and we will answer these questions and other issues on this segment of Forgotten History.
Vincent Robert Capodanno Jr. was born in Staten Island, New York on February 13, 1929. He was the 10th and youngest child of an immigrant father from Gaeta, Italy, and an Italian mother. Through the example of his parents, Vincent Jr. experienced the dignity of hard work, pride of family, strength of ethnic solidarity, and most especially, love of their Catholic faith. These values sustained the family during the Great Depression, and following the sudden loss of their patriarch on young Vincent's 10th birthday, life was even harder. Capodanno graduated from Curtis High School on February 4, 1947, then took night classes at Fordham University for a year while working as an insurance clerk. Being a devout Catholic, he felt the calling to serve the church, with an interest in missionary work. He entered the Mary Knoll Missionary Seminary in Ossining, New York, in 1949 and continued his studies in Illinois and Massachusetts. He was ordained a Roman Catholic priest by Cardinal Francis Spellman on June 14, 1958. Capodanno's first appointment was in 1959, ministering to the Hakka people in the mountains of Taiwan, where he served in a parish and later taught in a school. After 6 years of missionary work, he returned to the United States for leave and then was assigned to a Mary Knoll school in Hong Kong. After his post in Hong Kong, Father Capodanno asked to be sent to the Navy Chaplain Corps so he could minister to the growing number of Marines in Vietnam. Capodanno received his commission as a lieutenant in the Navy Chaplain Corps on December 28, 1965. At his own request, he was assigned to the Fleet Marine Force, FMF, in South Vietnam. After a year of infantry training and additional courses, he was assigned to the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, 1st Marine Division in South Vietnam in April 1966. In December, he was assigned to the 1st Medical Battalion, 1st Marine Division, until he completed his year-long tour. Chaplains simply did not go out with troops on missions. They were told, and most were content to stay in the rear and safety. But Capodanno was a different kind of chaplain. To quote, "Wherever the Marines were, Father Capodanno was there, in theater or in the mud up to his knees," said a Marine who knew him. Another Marine, Lieutenant R.J. Marnell, remembers, quote, "Father Capodanno was told several times it was not his job to go on patrols, fire sweeps, etc. You had to watch him like a hawk, as it was not uncommon to see a group of Marines running to get on a helicopter to go into battle, and all of a sudden this figure comes out of nowhere, no rifle, just his priest gear, and jumping in the helicopter before anybody could catch him. He wanted to be with his Marines, and didn't feel his job was simply to say Mass on Sundays." End quote. Another Marine, Lance Corporal Steve Lovejoy, recalls, "Over the years, I always believed Father Capodanno had spent at least 3 months with Mike Company, if not longer. In actuality, it was no more than 4 weeks. He had that kind of impact. He treated us as if he was one of us, and that is how we related to him. Of course, we had respect and understood his position, but the men accepted him as one of their own." End quote. In June 1967, after taking a 1-month leave, he voluntarily returned to Vietnam for 6 months and was assigned to the 1st Battalion, 5th Marines that July, but was transferred to Headquarters and Service Company, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Marine Division in August. His best friend during this period was the future founder of Federal Express, Lieutenant Frederick W. Smith. According to Smith and the other Marines, Capodanno was highly respected for his willingness to share the hardships and suffering that most Marines experienced on the front lines. He did not stay in the rear during operations. He jumped on helicopters to be with his Marines and corpsmen. He felt that was where he was needed most. This was where he earned the nickname, the Grunt Padre. As with his previous unit, Capodanno made an instant impact. Former Marine George Phillips says that he had an innate ability to know when Marines needed to talk about something, and he would sit and wait in silence until the Marine was ready to talk, and never move on until he saw the Marine had received some comfort. But when you were talking with him, it was like the two of you were in a cocoon, and nothing else was going on around you. You know, rockets, bullets, whatever. Guys walking by. He kept his attention focused on one person at a time. 5 or 6 guys sitting around talking, and he joins them. He'd listen intently to the guy who's talking, but ignore the other 4. And when you were one-on-one with him, it was almost a mystical experience, end quote. Capodanno wrote back home to his family and friends, asking them to send cigarettes, St. Christopher medals, and various non-perishable food items. He would go into combat with all of these stuffed in his pockets and give them to the Marines. Sometimes he would sit in the open and start praying, even when there was gunfire around, and some of the men would join him. In battle, he was relentless in going to the wounded and helping extract them to safety while giving them prayer. He was once sprayed by grenade fragments while giving last rites to the dying, but despite a shredded flak jacket, he did not have a scratch on him. During Operation Swift in the Kusan Valley on Labor Day, September 4, 1967, 8 miles southwest of Tang Bin along Route 534, the Marines were protecting a polling station where the locals were voting, and Capodanno rose to the occasion. At 0430 hours, Delta Company 1-5 was attacked in its night defensive position by 2,500 North Vietnamese soldiers near the village of Dong Son, and were heavily outnumbered. Lieutenant Colonel C.B. Webster told the company commanders to prepare a helicopter lift to the area of Dong Son. Fearing being encircled and taking heavy volumes of fire that cost the lives of 26 Marines by 0914 hours, they desperately needed support, and the Bravo Company went in to assist. At 0925, Webster requested additional reinforcements, and Kilo and Mike companies from the 3rd Battalion were committed to the battle, although the Marines were still heavily outnumbered. When Capodanno heard that 2 platoons of Mike Company were taking casualties and about to be overrun, he helped offload the wounded brought in on an H-34 that had just landed. He left the safety of the company command post and ran through an open area raked with fire. Capodanno went among the wounded and dying Marines of 2nd Platoon, helping and comforting them and giving last rites, and then boarded the helicopter again as it was going back into the battle with Mike Company's 3rd Platoon to reinforce and support their brother Marines, and the helicopters left around 11:45 hours. After a 30-minute flight, the helicopter pilot told Mike Company Commander J.D. Murray that the original landing zone near Bravo and Delta Companies was too hot to risk a landing. The alternate landing zone was to have been the one used by Kilo Company, 1,000 meters away, but that too was unsafe. So the helicopters ultimately discharged the Marines and Father Capodanno at a landing zone in some dried-up rice paddies roughly 2,500 meters away from Bravo and Delta. After negotiating a bamboo forest and taking fire, the Marines encountered hidden enemies popping up and firing, as well as dropping mortar rounds on them. Disregarding the intense enemy small arms, automatic weapons, and mortar fire, Capodanno moved about the battlefield through the intense enemy fire, administering last rites to the dying and giving medical aid to the wounded. Radioman Lovejoy had a jammed M16 and was pinned down with Lance Corporal Al Santos of Fall River, Massachusetts, whose weapon had also jammed. They were both wounded when out of nowhere appeared Father Capodanno. He dragged Lovejoy to safety in a bomb crater. Then he braved enemy fire to save Sergeant Howard Manfroth of Philadelphia. Tanky recalls being aware of Capodanno rushing around the battlefield, exposing himself to unrelenting enemy fire to bless and comfort the fallen. Capodanno immediately raced again through the open terrain and intense fire to help the corpsmen with the wounded, where he gave comfort and last rites to the Marines, who he had helped drag and carry out of the fields of fire. When an exploding mortar round inflicted painful multiple wounds to his arms and legs and severed a portion of his right hand, he steadfastly refused all medical aid. Instead, he directed the corpsmen to help their wounded comrades and, with calm vigor, continued to move about the battlefield as he provided encouragement by voice and example to the valiant Marines. Navy Corpsman Armando Leal of San Antonio, Texas, had been heroically going around giving aid to the wounded when he reached Tanque, who was kneeling down and firing when a bullet went through Leal's leg, cutting his femoral artery. Tanque attempted to drag Leal up the knoll and into a crater, putting one finger in the wound to staunch the bleeding, and trying to fire at the enemy with the other hand. Lance Corporal Steve Cornell arrived to help but was shot through the chest. Tanque's weapon jammed. As he looked up, only a few feet away from the NVA machine gunner now aiming at him, and due to his right hand being injured, he could not release his grenade. They had managed to attack and get to within about 6 yards of an enemy machine gun position that was causing so much destruction. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, again came Father Capodanno, bullets flying through his flak jacket and kicking up dirt all around him. He helped Tanque, who had rolled into a bomb crater, when a Huey gunship arrived and laid down a base of fire with rockets and machine guns, giving a pause in the chaos. That afternoon was total carnage. Capodanno had again pulled wounded Marines to safety and returned to get more. He managed to get the dead and wounded to the landing zone, giving last rites, and then returned, despite being wounded himself in the hand, arms, and legs by enemy grenades and rifle fire. Again refusing medical evacuation, despite being seriously wounded, he went to help a seriously wounded Navy corpsman and 2 wounded Marines. He pulled the men to safety, then re-entered the kill zone, returning to the fight to recover more men. Upon encountering another wounded corpsman in the direct line of fire of an enemy machine gunner positioned approximately 15 yards away, Lieutenant Capodanno rushed forward in a daring attempt to aid and assist the mortally wounded corpsman. Witnesses say that Capodanno's body was hit over a dozen times by the enemy machine gun bullets, which were 12.7 millimeter rounds, approximately a .50 caliber round. Despite these hits, he still covered a lot of ground to get to the remaining wounded men. These rounds would have shredded a car's engine block, but Capodanno's body was intact despite 27 holes, as it seemed that bullets just passed through him. He was found holding a rosary, apparently prepared to give last rites when he was killed. The remaining Marines laid down a base of fire so they could recover Capodanno's body. They were not going to leave their grunt padre. Including Capodanno, 14 Marines and the 2 corpsmen from the battalion were also killed and dozens more wounded. Lieutenant Father Vincent Capodanno was 38 years old. Some of the wounded Marines who Capodanno rescued and prayed over spoke of seeing him after they were medevaced, one Marine saying he was talking to him. Another Marine recalled seeing the priest going from man to man but could not hear what he was saying. The problem was that these supposed events occurred either while Capodanno was still in the battle or after he died. One thing is certain, the grunt padre had left a long-lasting impression upon his flock. Father Vincent Capodanno's body was returned home and buried in his family's plot in St. Peter's Cemetery on Staten Island. On December 27, 1968, Secretary of the Navy Paul Ignatius notified the Capodanno family that Lieutenant Capodanno would posthumously be awarded the Medal of Honor. On May 19, 2002, the cause for canonization regarding Capodanno was inaugurated. In May 2004, the initial documentation was submitted to the Congregation for the Causes of Saints, named Mission Capodanno, acting as petitioner, and with Capodanno's biographer, Daniel Mode, named postulator. Now, there are 15 memorials, buildings, streets, chapels, a high school in Southern Pines, North Carolina, and other locations around the nation, as well as in Vietnam, Taiwan, and Italy, bearing his name, including the frigate USS Capodanno, now decommissioned. And it became the first ship in the history of the U.S. Navy to receive a papal blessing by Pope John Paul II. The legacy of the Marine Corps and the Naval Service often overlooks the contributions of the traditional non-combatants, such as chaplains. Father Capodanno never carried a weapon. Armed only with his Bible and sacraments, he inspired his Marines.
We hope you enjoyed this segment of Forgotten History. Please click like and subscribe for free. And please stay tuned and be engaged and informed. Send us comments if you have questions or even show ideas, and we will respond to all requests and comments as soon as we can. Thank you.